Welcome to Friends and Fiction. 4 New York Times bestselling authors, endless stories. Novelists Mary Kay Andrews, Kristin Harmel, Kristy Woodson Harvey, and Patti Callahan Henry are 4 longtime friends with more than 70 published books between them. Together, they host Friends and Fiction, with author interviews and fascinating insider talk about publishing and writing, to highlight and support independent bookstores. They discuss the books they've written, the books they're reading now, and the art of storytelling. If you love books and you're curious about the writing world, you're in the right place. Hi, everybody. Welcome to a very special Sunday bonus edition of Friends and Fiction. We have so much to look forward to tonight. I'm Kristin Harmel.
I'm Kristy Woodson Harvey.
I'm Patti Callahan Henry.
And I'm Mary Kay Andrews.
And this is Friends and Fiction, 4 New York Times bestselling authors, endless stories to support independent bookstores. Tonight, you'll meet Karen Cleveland, who, in addition to being a New York Times bestselling author, is also a former CIA analyst and the mom of 3 of the coolest kids on the planet.
Aww.
We'll talk to her tonight about what it was like to work for the CIA, how she went from that to a writing career, the challenges and benefits of writing about a covert agency having once been on the inside, and how she now balances writing with motherhood and life. We'll also be getting an inside look at her brand new book, You Can Run.
And as you know, we always encourage you to support independent booksellers when and where you can. And tonight, our independent bookseller is a favorite of all of ours, Park Road Books in Charlotte, North Carolina, where you can find, yes, we all love Park Road, where you can find Karen's 3 books and books by the 4 of us and our past guests. And a portion of each sale goes to Park Road Books. Eventually it
comes to Park Road.
I love it. All right.
You do not get a kickback.
Yes, zero portion of the books comes to us. Yes. So now it's time to tell you a little bit about Karen Cleveland.
Karen is a former CIA analyst who began her career working in Russia and later moved into the CIA's counterterrorism center, where she focused primarily on Pakistan and Syria. While at the CIA, she wrote briefs for the U.S. president and other senior policymakers, worked closely with an FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force, and earned more than a dozen exceptional performance awards. Amazing.
Yeah. It sounds like you're describing a character.
I know, right?
Movie.
That's so true.
And the character playing Karen Cleveland is an intelligent. Anyway, Karen's first novel, Need to Know, was a New York Times, USA Today, and international bestseller. The novel has been published in more than 30 international markets, and film rights were sold to Universal Pictures, with Charlize Theron attached to produce and star.
Not too shabby. And since then, Karen has released 2 more novels, 2019's Keep You Close and You Can Run, which came out there it is, another great cover, came out just last month. She earned her bachelor's degree at the University of Florida.
Chomp.
Also has master's degrees from Trinity College Dublin, where she studied as a Fulbright scholar, and Harvard University. I hear they turn out some pretty good students.
I've heard that.
Not like Auburn, but whatever. Yeah.
After spending it's going to get tough during football season again.
I know. It's heading that way.
To know that. Okay. After spending many years in the Washington, D.C. area, she now lives in North Carolina with her husband and 3 children.
But of course, the most important thing, to know about Karen, at least tonight, is that she's my little sister. So,
Oh my
yeah.
goodness.
So that is Karen with the reddish hair on the right, and that is me on the left. Probably about 25 years ago or so, in
Oh
the
my
mid
gosh,
90s.
So
And
cute.
how cute, by the way, is our little brother Dave in the middle with his little glasses and everything, right?
He's so cute.
And I think, yep, and there we are.
Oh my goodness. So
That's
cute.
Karen with the curly red hair, and our dog Dr. Spots, and Dave again. And then there's me with pretty much exactly the same bangs I had when we started Friends in Fiction.
That's right.
So that's how you recognize me.
I miss the bangs. I really miss them.
I do not really miss the bangs, but I watched the evolution during the early part of Friends in Fiction, and they just got a little bit more crooked because I wasn't going to. The bangs are.
We could do like a flip book.
Yes, of like the evolution of the bangs. But anyhow, Sean,
can I go back to
Yeah,
I'm sorry, Dr. Spots. That was the dog's name, Dr. Spots.
I actually think that before we ask Karen to tell us about You Can Run, we should ask her how Dr. Spots got his name, because that's
digging that name.
Equally important. So, Sean, can you bring Karen on? So, hi, welcome, Karen. Hi, Karen. We are so excited that you're here, and I'm so excited you get to meet all my friends, both on screen and those who are watching tonight. And Karen, in a moment, I'm going to ask you to give us the elevator pitch for You Can Run. But before that, do you remember how Dr. Spots got his name?
I do.
Can you tell us? Because I love this story.
It's so great to be here with you all. Dr. Spots. I think we got a spot when we were young kids. I think it was before Dave was even born.
Yeah. I was 6 and you were 3, I think.
Okay. And I think it was me, but I think somebody was saying dots.
The origins.
Trying to figure out if he had dots or spots. And our parents thought we were saying Dr. Spots. That's my recollection
it was
how
you.
the name came about.
Yes, it was you, because I was pushing for the name Midwhite, which I thought was so brilliant because he was black and white, and it was a combination of like midnight and white. Yeah, your name was better. Dots or spots, misunderstood. Yeah. So the story of Dr. Spots. Yes.
I also think it's funny you were talking about bangs, because in the family picture you showed, I distinctly remember those family pictures, because right before we left the house to get them taken, I decided it would be a good idea to cut my own bangs. And
we've all done that.
Yes. A little bit short.
Yes.
That's
yes.
so funny.
I did that. Oh, they're so cute though. You were adorable. I love it. All right, Karen. Before this turns into a total trip down memory lane, which would be great, but which people will be like, blink, turn off. Can you tell us a little bit about You Can Run, your most recent novel?
Yeah, absolutely. So You Can Run is about a woman named Jill. She's a CIA analyst, and she's also mom to a baby boy. And her job at the CIA is vetting prospective new agency sources, basically making sure they are who they say they are. Wow. And one day, just as she's about to get to work, looking into the CIA's hottest new recruit, she gets a call. The voice on the other end of the line says, "We have your son." Her son has been taken, and in order to get him back, she has to do something she never thought she'd do. She has to go ahead and approve this source without looking into him, and then stay quiet about it. So she makes her decision. And, like any decision, there are consequences. And as much as she wants to run from them in the future, she can't hide from them, especially when an ambitious young journalist comes digging around.
Wow.
Oh, good.
Well, I mean, this just sounds so great. And it's so fast. You worked for the CIA. So can you tell us a little bit about how you got into it and what your job entailed? As much as you can tell us, I guess.
Yeah. It was a really interesting career. And as far as sort of how I got into it, I think there were 2 main things that led me there. The first was September 11th. I was a freshman in college on 9/11. And I knew that I wanted a career in government, but I think that was sort of when my focus shifted to national security. And then a couple of years later, a friend of mine, very sadly, was killed in Iraq. And just those 2 things together made me feel like I wanted to do something to help my country. I wanted to do something to help protect my country from people who wish to do it harm. And eventually I joined the CIA. I started out on Russia. After a couple of years, moved to the Counterterrorism Center. I worked mostly on Pakistan, a little bit on Syria. and really was just sort of supporting the CT mission, disrupting terrorist groups, trying to prevent another 9/11, and trying to keep people safe.
Wow.
That is absolutely fascinating. And I know a lot of things that you did are probably classified, but without getting too specific, can you tell us about what it was like to feel like you were contributing to national security, and at times that the president himself was reading your briefs?
It was a great feeling. I think everybody who works at the CIA just wants to feel like they're having impact. And for me, that was impact, knowing that something I had written ended up in the president's daily brief, and that the president and the cabinet were reading it and discussing it and hopefully sort of using it to help inform their policy decisions.
So knowing that random people read your books probably is nothing compared to knowing that the president was reading your briefs.
I think I would be reading it 6, 7, 8 times. So that kind of work is so fascinating. Like I said, when we were describing your background, it almost sounds like a character in a book, right? You sound like a made up character, but then you switched from that to actually writing about made up characters. So how did you transition from that kind of work to writing novels? What even made you want to switch tracks like that?
I think the short answer is my son. Before I had my oldest son, I never considered switching careers. I loved my CIA career. And, after he was born, I just got to the point where I felt like I needed a change. And I think there are so many careers out there that offer some degree of flexibility and some ability to work from home. Intelligence isn't one of them, just because of the nature of the job. All of your work has to be done in a SCIF, a secure compartmented information facility, in my case, Langley. And, hours are often dictated by what's going on in the world. And I just didn't feel like I was able to give 100% to my son and 100% to the job. And so I started really becoming interested in the idea of a career with some flexibility. And I've always liked writing. And, writing to me seems like sort of that ultimate flexible schedule, work from home kind of job. And in a sense, I had sort of been writing professionally for years, because so much of the work of a CIA analyst is writing. So it felt like something that I wanted to try doing. And, I'm very fortunate that it worked out.
I bet Kristin inspired you. You have this big sister who is out there publishing these books. And so how did you wind up deciding whether to lean into the CIA past, or knowing that there might be some things you couldn't even talk about? Is it a tough line to walk? Does the CIA have to read them? Tell us a little bit about that, because you didn't just decide to write books. You decided to write books about what you did. Yeah.
I mean, I think I sort of took that old adage of write what you know to heart. And I felt like I know the intelligence world because I was in that world. And, so I think it felt sort of natural to write about somebody in the CIA. But that being said, I think I tend to gravitate sort of towards domestic suspense and psychological thrillers. So I think there's a lot of that in the books too. And, it's not really your typical spy thriller. You're not going to see a lot of detailed descriptions of military hardware or weapons or anything like that. You're going to see more about secrets and lies and competing loyalties, because that's really what's sort of more interesting to me about the intelligence world. And as far as the review process, all of my books do have to be reviewed by a CIA board. It's a lifelong obligation. Anyone who has worked at the CIA has to do it, and you just send everything to this board and they review it. And the purpose is just to make sure that there's nothing classified in the material. And, it's, for me, I have found the process to be relatively smooth. It's another hoop to jump through for sure. But I think it also serves a valuable purpose, because, I joined the CIA to help my country. So the last thing I would want to do is hurt it by accidentally disclosing anything classified. So I think it does serve an important purpose. And
have they ever asked you to take anything out that was in there? Or
No, I think you sort of have a good sense when you've worked there of what you can and can't say. So I think that I haven't dealt with any serious issues, really. I think it would be much more complicated if I were writing nonfiction. But, fortunately, there has not been any sort of major issues.
How long does that process take? Like from the time you submit it to them, how long does it take them to get back to you?
I think that can really vary too. For me, it's been pretty quick. And I'm not sure if I can even put kind of an estimate on how long, because I think it has varied a lot. And, they need to see changes to manuscripts as well. So it's not like sort of a one-time process. It's sort of going back to them a lot throughout the process of writing a book. And so, when they see the full manuscript for the first time, obviously that will take longer, but they're pretty quick about turning things around.
fascinating.
Down the line.
Fascinating.
I think it's interesting, Karen, that in all three of your novels, you explore the conflict between your protagonists' obligations to the country and their obligations to their own families. And the idea that sometimes you can't do what's right for both. And obviously, from what you just told us, you felt a little bit of that conflict yourself, which maybe was the motivation for switching careers. And You Can Run, for example, you give us Jill Bailey, whose son Owen is kidnapped, as you said, and all the kidnapper wants is for Jill to approve a source. But that's an impossible choice, right? The safety of your child versus your obligation to your country. When you worked at the CIA, did you ever ask yourself those kinds of questions? What if? Which I think was so where fiction always starts.
Yeah, absolutely. The idea for You Can Run actually I came up with when I was working at the CIA. It was when my oldest was a baby and I had just dropped him at daycare and I was heading into Langley. And I had some paperwork due that day, sort of reinvestigation type paperwork, updating my finances, my personal contacts. Security looks into those things periodically just to make sure that employees aren't being compromised. And I just remember, as I was walking in from the parking lot, the thought kind of striking me that was sort of a waste of time because there was no amount of money, no amount of persuasion or blackmail or anything that would make me betray my country. But if my son were in danger, that might be a different story. And that was a scary thought to me. So that's sort of what I returned to years later with You Can Run and tried to put the main character in that scary situation.
Well, you certainly did a good job of it. Why do you think why are you motivated to explore this question again and again and in new ways and have your views on loyalty? Has that changed as you craft these characters and as you evolve into thinking about your fiction career and putting your characters in impossible situations?
I think I keep coming back to it just because it is such a difficult question. And I think it's something that a lot of us can really relate to as well. Most of us have not had to choose between our country and our family, fortunately, but most of us have had to choose to prioritize something that's important in our lives over something else that's important in our lives, whether it's careers or family, be it young kids or aging parents or pets, or friends, hobbies and passions. Like, I think that we've all sort of been in that position where something has to come first and something has to come second. And so I think it's sort of easy for a lot of people to empathize with these characters and the difficult choices they're making, because we've all had to make difficult choices.
Yeah. So Karen, of course, Need to Know was a big success, and it allowed you, among other things, to leave your CIA job and to be home with your kids, who also happen to be my two nephews and one of my nieces. Can you talk about what this shift in your own life has been like and whether you think it has impacted your writing in any way?
It's been great. And I feel very fortunate to be able to be doing something I enjoy professionally and also being there for bedtimes and baseball and school pickups and being involved with the schools and with community organizations and things that would be more difficult if I were still in my CIA career. So, I think for me, it's been, and, for my family, I think it's been a positive change.
Do you think that if that success hadn't enabled you to do this, you still would have left the CIA and found something else? I mean, with this idea of wanting to be there for your family in a different way? Or do you think that you would have tried to do something like scale back your hours at the CIA? Do you think you would have found a different way to do it, or would the end result have been the same?
I think the end result would have been the same. I actually did try sort of shifting to a different account at one point, and like a lower profile account sort of. And I wasn't as happy because that wasn't what I wanted to be doing.
Yeah.
And I still didn't really feel like I, had enough time. So I think it would have happened anyway.
Yeah. Well, that's good. So you kind of are on the road you were supposed to be on, which is a good thing. You just found a really cool way to get there. So can you talk a little bit about kind of the challenges of writing now with 3 kids? I mean, you don't have to go into that office job that, that takes you away from them and keeps you confined to a particular area of the country and all of that. But, you do still have these deadlines. And I know you have 3 kids with, busy lives and school. And like you said, baseball and ballet and different obligations. The busy life we all have with young kids, right? How do you find time to squeeze your writing in around that? And do you think it has shaped the way you craft your novels?
With the kids back in school now and with my youngest in preschool, there are sort of windows throughout the week where all 3 kids are in school, or the older ones are in school and the younger one's napping. And I work on weekends. Yeah. And, that being said, last weekend, my boys had 5 baseball games, and
oh my goodness.
Little League knows that 5 baseball games basically is your entire weekend. So I didn't really write last weekend. I sat on ball fields and cheered on my kids. But so I think there are periods of time where I'm not as productive as maybe I should be. But I think there are other periods where, I'm more productive. So I think it all sort of evens out in the end. Yeah. And I think I'm just embracing that flexibility and enjoying it.
Yeah.
It's so hard to do, but
we've been juggling, all of us.
Always juggling
about how to juggle.
Yes, it's so hard. Can you talk a little bit about some of the actual spycraft in your novels? So for example, in You Can Run, you open with a request that comes into a cable tracking system called Fortress, and the request for encryption of a news source called Falcon. You have lots of technical how things work details like this in your books. Are these systems and processes real, or are you making them up?
I think it's sort of a combination of the two. The CIA is obviously very tight-lipped about a lot of things. True. I am often asked how many people work at the CIA, and that's not something I can even answer because that number is classified.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Names of particular programs are classified. So those sorts of details have been changed, but I think the books do give you sort of a general sense of the nature of the job and what it's like to work there.
Interesting.
That you're not even allowed to say how many people work there is just so fascinating, because I'm sitting here wanting to ask you 9,000 things about work. I'm like, I'm not even going to bother because she can't even tell how many people work there.
You have to be a really good secret keeper to be in the CIA.
No.
You have to give up your card. Is there a picture on it? Is it with your eye or your finger? Like, I have all these questions.
I would be terrible at that. I want to tell my friends everything. Like, I would be like, you guys, you'll never believe what I did today.
You guys, I went in and they took my eyeball picture. I'd be like, this is the reason we do not work for the CIA.
Yeah, we were not cleared. Yeah.
All right. But really, I want you to talk to us about the character of Alex. She's a journalist with the Washington Post, and she's gunning for a Pulitzer, just like we are. And can you talk a little bit about getting inside the head of a very ambitious Washington journalist? Because you were at Langley. I mean, you probably know these archetypes.
Yeah, I think she's an interesting character. And when I was writing the book, the working title was actually Clandestine Source, because I just thought it was so interesting that intelligence officers and journalists both rely so much on human sources, clandestine sources, anonymous sources. And that's not really all they have in common either. Both professions are really out there trying to find the truth, and both professions can be dangerous at times. both can be either very popular or very unpopular, depending on sort of public opinion. There's so many similarities between the two, but there's also that conflict between them, because a lot of times the CIA needs to keep something secret and journalists obviously want to share it with the public. So there's sort of that tension there. And I thought it would be interesting to have a character from either side. And they have this tension because they have some competing interests, but they also sort of discover that there are some similarities between the two of them.
Were you able to talk to any journalists for research for the book?
I do have, yes, I talked to a couple people and sort of ran some things by them. But yeah, I think it's, so a little bit.
Good. Karen, we love to ask our guests for a writing tip. Do you have one that you could share with us today?
I think my tip would be just to write the sort of book that you would want to read, even if it doesn't necessarily fit into any one box. Need to Know is sort of part spy thriller, part domestic suspense, part psychological thriller. It had a CIA protagonist, but she's a woman and she's a mom, and she is imperfect and makes some bad decisions like we all do. But, it found an audience, and there were people who were willing to take a chance on it and throw their support behind it. And for me personally, it was a more interesting book to write and a more fun book to write, I think, than if I had tried to kind of write just a more traditional spy thriller.
All right. Well, that was awesome. That was so interesting. Some of this I knew, some of it I didn't. It was interesting to, obviously we've talked behind the scenes for years, but I think some of these questions I've never asked you directly. So that was interesting to find out about. Exactly. All right. So Karen, we have one more important question for you. So don't go anywhere.
So first, we want to remind all of you out there to check out our Friends in Fiction Writer's Block podcasts. In the episode that premiered on Friday, Ron talked to Hank Phillippi Ryan about writing thrillers, and a new original episode drops each and every Friday wherever you get your podcasts, and you can also listen to our Wednesday night shows in podcast form.
And if you're not hanging out with us yet in the Friends in Fiction official book club, and you're only hanging out here, you are missing out. The group is separate from us and is run by our friends Lisa Harrison and Bredna Gardner. And they are now more than 9,000 members strong.
Crazy, huh?
I know. And they're so active over there. I did the book club last Monday live, and they are just so active, and they just read, and they have questions, and they're simply amazing. And don't forget that we also have a Friends in Fiction merch store through Oxford Exchange, where you can buy t-shirts, tumblers, and some new special products. I'm dying to tell you guys about the new special products. Like, I could never work for the CIA because I want to tell you so bad.
I know, it's terrible.
I'm terrible. I'd be kicked out the first week. You can link to that through our website.
And I want to remind everybody, mark your calendars, preferably in red and green, maybe with a little Santa hat. Wednesday at 7 p.m. Join us right back here as we welcome #1 best-selling novelist Debbie Macomber and celebrate the launch of my brand new novel, The Santa Suit, which will be out Tuesday. I'm excited. Then the following Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern, we will be joined by Newbery Award winner Kwame Alexander.
We also want to remind you that you can always watch us live on YouTube each week. And also on our Friends in Fiction YouTube channel, you can find almost all of our previous episodes, plus special clips and writing tips from the show. Just search for Friends in Fiction on YouTube and click subscribe.
All right, Karen, are you ready? There is a question. It is not about the CIA. All of our guests, we're going to be like that water dripping torture until you tell us something about the CIA.
We really should have asked her while we had her here for like some embarrassing Kristin stories or something.
Well, I mean, there are
embarrassing
none.
Kristin stuff.
You guys, I've been perfect always. So
I mean,
obviously those
obviously.
don't exist.
Obviously.
Did you ever try to like, I had a little sister and my favorite thing to do to her was to pin her down and like drool in her face.
Yes, I did that. Or they tell me I did that. I don't remember doing that.
No, you guys. Once I told Karen that what was I? I was an alien from outer space, and you weren't really my sister. And
she used a really scary voice, and she said,
"Sounded like this." Yes.
Oh my God!
I was very scared.
Did you believe her, Karen?
I believe I did. Yeah.
Then she joined the CIA and had Kristin deported. It was very
you guys you wonder why I lived in France for a while. Research, yeah. I just wasn't allowed back in.
When her phone was tapped. Okay, that's not our question. Our question is, it's one we ask our guests every week, but we're especially interested to hear your answer since, of course, you grew up with a big sister who is also a writer, our very own and beloved Kristin.
Can you believe tiny Kristin's anyone's big sister?
I know.
I know. Polly Pocket Kristin. Here's the question. What were the values around reading and writing in the Harmel childhood home? And I want to hear like how it might feel different for the two of you. But Karen, what was it for you?
I think books were just always a big part of our lives. And, we were readers. I don't think we didn't watch as much TV as other kids our age, I don't think. And, we didn't play video games as much as other kids our age. We actually we would rent a video game system for a week every summer. Kristin, do you remember that?
No, I don't. I remember having a Game Boy. I don't remember renting a video game system. Maybe that was
Blockbuster Video. They used to rent video games, but they would also rent the whole system. So since we didn't have a video game system, our mom would bring us to Blockbuster and we would rent the Nintendo. We would rent some games. We would play it for a week. We'd return it, and that would be it until the next
I do not remember that at all. That's so funny.
So, we read books and we played outside, and the emphasis was really on that. And so I think reading and writing really, go hand in hand. And so, I guess that's
for sure.
It's funny though. I always thought Karen was going to be an artist when she was so good at art and drawing when she was, do you remember that you did Disney characters on our mailbox? Yeah, she painted our mailbox with all the Disney characters. So she always had that artistic streak in her, that creative artistic streak, which is
awesome.
Which is cool. Yeah, but she's right. We definitely grew up in a household where devices were not really a thing, and TV was pretty carefully monitored, right? So we didn't really watch anything. Yeah. Well, anyhow, Karen, it was so nice of you to join us tonight. It was so great to see you and get to introduce you to, my friends,
so nice
to our audience. Yeah, we're so glad.
Really nice to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us, and I can't wait to see you soon in Hawaii or before then. All right. Well, Karen, have a great night. Love you.
All right, love you too.
Bye, Karen. Thanks for joining us. Thank you.
Well, how fun was that, ladies?
So fun. We got to
really did want to ask her more family stories in CIA, but she seems like the kind that won't tell me.
Can you tell? I know.
You're not going to break her.
Exactly. No, she's unbreakable.
Especially now on YouTube.
So do you think we resemble each other? Do you think that we our mannerisms?
I do.
Not at all. I think no. Yes, you totally do.
Yes.
So funny.
Not in mannerisms or in voice, but
I think their voices are similar.
Yeah,
you guys have that peaches and cream thing going on.
Yeah. She's a little bit more of a redhead, but anyhow, that was so fun. I'm so glad you guys got to meet Karen and we got a chance to talk about her book. And to all of you out there, you are such an amazing book-loving community, and we thank you for joining us for our Sunday night bonus. We will see you Wednesday. We are so excited as we celebrate the launch of the Santa suit, which will be out on Tuesday. So go buy it now.
Yay. And there will be hats.
There will be
hats. Headgear.
And the hats aren't necessarily like what you think they are. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We'll leave it at that. Buy the Santa suit. Patty's not allowed to do any sound effects. Meg is pointing out. And
Poor Patti.
all right,
Patti,
everybody
I
out
believe
there.
in second chances.
Can I just give it one more shot? Just give me one.
All right, we're going to get you some sleigh bells.
Oh
Ding
my
dong.
gosh. Yes. Okay.
You can't mess those up.
Really
No,
can't.
I'll find a way, but yes.
All right, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your Sunday, and we'll
Good
see you
night,
right back
y'all.
here on Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. Good night.
Happy
Bye.
holidays.
Everyone.
Thank you for tuning in. You can join us every week on Facebook or YouTube, where our live show airs on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Also, subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Instagram.